So thank you very much for joining us today. And we have the lovely Katrena Friel on board to take us through this very important topic of positioning yourself as an expert in your field of excellence. So Katrena's passion and unique approach will invigorate and challenge behaviours, beliefs and thinking. So thank you so much for joining us today, Katrena. We're certainly looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us today. If you're sharing your screen, please do that now to take us through your presentation. And we're going to have that 15-20 minutes discussion at the end. So if you've got any questions, just hold those, write them down so you don't forget. And obviously we'll cover off on any questions and discussion that you want to have towards the end. So over to you, Katrena.
Thanks very much, Nikita. I've been involved with the network for quite a number of years now, and I absolutely love it. And I think the women that I've met all over Australia has just been delightful, and I've had many great adventures. And now I'm having an adventure on a webinar with you guys for the very first time. So that's kind of cool. So let's see if we can get the same sort of passion and information across that we would in a live event here online. I just want to welcome everyone. I know everyone's busy, so it's just my great honor to have a little bit of time with you, to connect with you over the internet like this. It's very exciting. And to be quite honest, I'm so happy not to be traveling for once. It's so nice. So let's get into it. As you know, we're going to be sort of talking about positioning yourself as an expert in your field of excellence. And let me just say right up front that, as you can see in the room, there are already experts here. So I've called my program Becoming the Expert program. And it's usually not because you're not already the expert. It's usually because there's a lack of confidence in being allowing yourself to call yourself the expert. So if you've got any questions about that at the end, I'm happy to discuss it, because there's a psychology behind owning your own expertise. And if you don't own it, you can be working for 30, 40 years and these other people will come in underneath you, call themselves an expert, and they've only got 5 or 6 years experience. So please don't be resentful that young folk are coming up underneath you and doing that. It's all about the way they've positioned themselves, they've packaged themselves, and they've priced themselves correctly. So that's the point of today is those 3 things to position yourself correctly. So the first thing I want you to have a look at is the overall model. So the overall model I teach in my program is what I call the Educator Model. And what this does is position you as a thought leader. So we can use the word thought leader or expert. Either way, they're beautiful words. And as you can see, they're bandied around all over the place these days. I want you to be seen as an expert in your field of excellence. So I'm not asking you to be an expert in everything. I'm asking you to be an expert and take your position as an expert in your field of excellence. My field of excellence is very different from your field of excellence. And how it's broken up, the business model, is it starts with a book. So I get my clients to write their book, and I extract from them their philosophy. And then from there, the book comes out and we take you to #1 bestseller. And then from there, we hit the stage and we do speaking. Now, at the moment, I'm doing speaking. So whether that's a webinar on a small stage with 5 people or on a big stage with 2,000 people, you are pretty much speaking with your book at all times. Even if it's just one-on-one, you're still presenting. And then that's your sales and marketing strategy. And then from there, people will want to buy your training. And your training is where the money's at, not in the book and not necessarily in the speaking. And then when you're a trainer, that's where you can go deep with your clients. The keynote speaking part is where you just give a flavor of your philosophy and they connect with you and your philosophy. And then from there, they want to buy your training. After training, they tend to want to go a bit deeper, and that's when your coaching packages will become important. Now, what I find out there, and the reason I've created this program, is because most authors starve and most coaches starve. And the reason is because they haven't got their business model correctly structured. They haven't got their book with the speaking, which then sells training and coaching. Or they just have their coaching and they wonder why nobody's calling them. It's because they haven't connected out there with their book and their keynote. So the other things are mentoring, facilitating and consulting, but that's for more advanced businesses. The main top 4 are where I want you to focus. So we start with setting a task for you when we're trying to unpack your philosophy. We want to have a look at your strengths. We want to have a look at your weaknesses, but I hate using the word weaknesses. I like to call them challenges, and you'll find you'll get a lot more out around challenges than you would around weaknesses. And then we turn those challenges and weaknesses into opportunities. And then the opportunities, we also look at some threats. And threats can be things like keeping up with technology, as an example. So have a look at that as a bit of a homework for you. What I then look at with my clients is I want to look at their goals and see how it fits into the Becoming the Expert program. I look at their dreams and their desires and their passions. And very importantly, we look at your past experience, whether that's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We've got to use that because your experience is what gives me all the clues I need as to where your field of excellence lies. And then we look at your current business position. Mostly I like to start with startups, people that haven't wasted too much time and money yet, but quite more often than not, I work with people that have already established a business, wasted a lot of time and money and gone in a direction and wondered why it hasn't really worked. So I look at the current position, I see what's gone wrong, and I show them what the correction is around this particular model. So as I said, the educator model is starting with your philosophy. So your homework is to think about 10 things that you think are essential for your client's success. Maybe it's 12 things, maybe it's 7 things. It doesn't really matter. It could be actually three secrets or 3 keys or 3 steps. It doesn't matter. But your homework is to think about your philosophy. Now, if you find it a little bit difficult, don't worry about it, because that's what we do in the program, is we actually unpack that for you and I extract it. And it seems to be a little bit of a, I don't know, it's one of my gifts, is that I'm able to look at who you are, get to know you a little bit, and then boom, it'll be really obvious to me what your philosophy is. And then the rest all rolls out from that. So as you can see, it's a bit of a pyramid where everything just extrapolates down from your philosophy. You'll get these slides if you want them, so don't worry about the detail on there. So to become the expert, you really need to work on yourself, as you already know, and that's why you're here, because you're an activated lifelong learner. And what happens with the top 10% of people in the world is they are activated lifelong learners, and they are proactive with their development. Whereas the rest of the world are just 90%ers. They are reactive with their learning. They only learn if they have to. They don't invest in themselves. They wait for companies to pay for their development. Whereas activated lifelong learners, the top 10% of people in the world, what they do is they buy books, they go to courses, they invest in themselves. And I know I've probably invested $100,000 in my personal development. And quite frankly, in my 30-year corporate career, I think some company paid for me back in my early career to go to a file management course, and that's it. That's all I've ever had bought for me. The rest has all been up to me. And I learnt this particular concept, or made up this concept myself, because I realized that only 10% of people are actually interested in proactively and find it interesting to learn and grow. Whereas I found that 90% of the world are just not interested, and they'll only do a course if they've been retrenched, or they find themselves in a sticky situation, or they can't get employment for a while. All those things are just what 90%ers do. And that's them. That's fine. Leave them there. But what I want to work with is not good to great. I work with great to excellence. And the excellence people are activated lifelong learners, whether they're aware of it or not. So that being said, there's a couple of things that I like to share throughout the program where we talk a lot about self-awareness and your ability to read others. We look at your emotional intelligence and how you can work that out with other people. We look at your behavioral styles and make sure that your business brand is built around your style, and we create a personal brand around that. You've got to be quite open to feedback, and as a coach or a teacher, you've got to be really good at giving it as well without making people heartbroken. And then we look at the format system. So your program is why, what, how, what if, and we can teach to that system, and you'll be able to speak in a heartbeat within 5 minutes within that utilizing that system. And we also look at, of course, the learning styles. So I'll explain all that to you so that you become the best teacher and educator that you could possibly be. And then we put all together and sew up your knowledge, skills and attitudes to things. And you've probably done it so far with books and courses, and you've probably studied, you're probably hanging out with your industry, you're probably networking, and you've got a whole heap of friends and like-minded colleagues that you hang around with. So that's all well and good. But what I found over the last 17 years of doing this is women have been doing it in a bitsy fashion. Bit of this, bit of that. They go to a Facebook course, they go to a LinkedIn course, they do a free webinar on this and a free webinar on that. And it's all just all over the place. So what I've done is, because I've worked out how it worked for me personally, because I've built this business for myself personally, and then people started to say, I want to do what you do. How do you do it? And that's when I put together the program. So I still have my corporate training and coaching business, as well as I work with entrepreneurs to build this model into their world as well. So I have two streams to my business, and I'll show you too how to have two streams to your business. And lots of different, perhaps revenue streams will come out of that, but that's all in the business plan. I like to look at the whole person. I think we're not just business people with business goals and financial goals. What I like to do is make your business a part of who you are. And so we don't build a business that wouldn't suit your family goals or your social goals or your spiritual goals or your team and group goals. We look at your educational goals, and we look at your health goals. So sometimes my clients might be 65 years of age. I wouldn't build a business where they travel about 250 days a year, like I have in the past. So that might not be suitable. Can you see that that would not be good for their health and well-being? They might be beyond all that. I know at 48, I get tired walking up and down airports as well. So I've shifted from 250 days away a year to not doing that much. I do it much more efficiently and effectively now. And it's doubled and tripled my revenue over the time. So I like you to have a think about the whole person. And if you want a bit of a goal setting around this thing, just email me and I'll send you a free thing that you can have a look at so that you can start to write down some of these goals. So if and when we catch up, you can really tell me about your whole life, not just your business life. And I want to build you something that's really suited and ecological to you across your life, not just your business. So on to a couple of things to consider. Now, everybody who is an extrovert will love the speaking part of it, but they'll hate the book writing part of it. And then all the introverts will love the book writing part of it and all the work behind the scenes, but they'll say to me, oh, I don't want to speak, I'm too shy, I don't want to get up on the stage and do all that. So my clients generally are introverts to start with. And the way I teach this whole concept around extrovert versus introvert, I think it's all bullshit. And it's bullshit because when I am writing my book, I get into my introverted energy. And when I'm talking to you now, I'm in my extroverted energy. But because I'm online with you, I don't need to turn my extroverted energy up to a 9 out of 10. I just need to set it at about right now probably around a 3 or a 4, just to make sure that my energy and my passion and my enthusiasm for what I'm doing really comes through the screen. Whereas, so everyone's got access to both these. It's just the most successful people in the world really know how to do both. And so don't call yourself an extrovert or an introvert. Yes, you've got a natural bent. But what I want you to do as the expert is be able to comfortably do both and have a real breadth of behavior, being able to access lots of extroverted shades of grey and also lots of introverted aspects to you and what's required when for different tasks within your business. So this is one of the concepts I get across quite early in the piece, even though you think you're an introvert or you think you're an extrovert. And if you've built an online business, or if you're saying to yourself, oh, I really want an online business, I don't want to travel at all, then you're probably more introverted. And unfortunately, you won't necessarily connect with people as well as you would live. And so your business will suffer. And I strongly recommend you actually get out there in the world and touch people and connect with people, usually with your book on stage. So I've got a lot to say about that, but time we'll move on. But please feel free to come back and talk to me deeply about that. The next skill I want you to have a think about is flexibility. This will be another key to your success as an expert, is because if we build a brand and we build your philosophy and we build your book and we've got your keynote, quite often there's a lot of tweaks along the way. Because your market will talk to you directly. And so what you thought was your second book might actually not be your second book. It could be your third book instead, because the market will demand that your second book be something else. And so you need a lot of flexibility in the world of being a speaker and an author. And so have a little think about how flexible are you, or are you inflexible? Are you rigid in your thinking? Rigid in your actions, rigid in your beliefs? Are you not open and flexible? Hopefully all of you are cool and groovy on this issue, but I just want to bring it up because I don't tend to want to work with people that have really rigid ideas and are not open to new ideas. Because once I come in as your coach and your business mentor, believe me, you're going to have to be really flexy, because I'm going to challenge you on probably everything you hold dear. And so it requires a lot of flexibility, but I'll do it in a lovely way and we'll have fun doing it. But I really need people to be open and flexible. And I also need people to really step into their creativity. The process and the journey that we go on is such a creative process. It's so fun. And when I speak to, let's say there's 100 or 200 women in a room, I'll say to them, hands up who thinks they're creative. And only half the room put their hands up. And that's absolutely not on. To be human is to be creative. So please, please don't ever describe yourself ever again as not being creative. To be human is to be creative. It's just that we are not singers, dancers, we don't play an instrument necessarily, and perhaps we don't paint or draw. So creativity is just not the arts. Business is creative. A startup, creating a startup company is so creative. And so I consider myself highly creative, and I show women in this program and working with them just how creative they actually are. Next one is planning. A lot of women, there'll be 50% of you that are really good at this and will give themselves a high mark for it. And the other half of the room will think they're not very good planning. One of the things I'll do while we're planning and developing your philosophy is that we will work on how to make planning fun. And I demystify planning for you so that you find it amazing. And I give you lots of systems and templates and just show that planning is really a creative pursuit. And so if you have an issue around planning, I like to sort of pop that bubble and make you love it and do it with no procrastination. So that's part of the program, is making sure that you're a really good planner for the future. And I believe everyone's got 12 books in them. So you can imagine we've got a plan for that. I'd like you to have a think about, as the expert, you've got to understand what your emphasis is going to be. And by emphasis, I mean, are you going to be a technical expert, a technical genius, or do you want to build a general management practice? So anybody that wants to have staff underneath them and they want to make money while you sleep, it's what we call, obviously, a leverageable business model. And not every woman wants to build that kind of business. Some just love to do. And if you are a technical genius that loves to just do what they do, then carry on, and we'll build a brand around you doing that. And the training of that is awesome and fun, and that's kind of the business that I've created. But if the emphasis is on building a big team underneath you, or even a small team underneath you, then that's fine as well. You can build that, but we've got to understand what your strengths and challenges are. I personally want to always do. I don't want to just train people to how to do it. I want to do it myself as well. So it's about where the joy is for you. And I want you to have a think about what the emphasis is going to be for your future, and whether you want to be out there doing and you get a lot of joy from that, or if you've got no joy from doing it, like say you're sick of hairdressing, for example, and you want to just teach other hairdressers how to do it, then that's great. That's a general management kind of emphasis. So you've got to have a think about that, because you've got to build it accordingly. The next principle to think about is the most successful people in business tend to have the purpose of what they're doing being the challenge. And the ones that are not that successful are the ones that are in it for work-life balance. And so people that get into a new business for work-life balance are always bitterly disappointed, and they feel like, gosh, this is not what I signed up for. And so what I do is I unpack this for you and make sure that you're in it for the challenge of it, and that you love the challenge of business and starting your own business or building your brand and creating your expertise and packaging all that up. Because if you're in it for lazing around the beach and you just want to go on holidays 24/7 at the early phase, then you'll find that you will never build enough momentum. So there are no silver bullets. I hope you've all worked that out by now. And it takes a bit of hard work, and you've got to enjoy that hard work. But to me, it's not hard work. In fact, I don't work at all. I love what I do, and it doesn't feel like work. I feel like I'm having fun at all times. So if you could build a business around your expertise where you're having fun and you're enjoying the challenge of building it, then you'll be very, very successful. But if you're in it to get work-life balance and just, you know, tick along, then you'll leave a lot of money on the table. But purpose is something we'll have a discussion on, and I'm happy to debate that with you. And finally, I want you to have a think about, what is your level of determination? If it's to, work one day a week and, the first challenge you come up against, you fall over and want to give up and you want to punch everybody, then what I'm looking for is people that have really good resilience, really want it real bad, and have that determination underpinning everything that they do. I've had clients before that said all the right things, that said that they wanted it, but the minute it got really hard, or they had to write a book and, they had a bit of a writer's block for a moment there, they just want to give up. So think about your level of determination and whether you've really got what it takes, because being an expert, you're on all the time, and you've got to be really determined to want to help people around the globe, and you've really got to want to put in the time to building your personal brand. And it's going to take effort. So on that note, I'm now going to just hand over to everybody so that they can start to chat away. How can I see? Nikita, as you know, I'm going to give away, everyone gets a free coaching session. So just make a note of that and email me your details, and I will be in touch to schedule that with who wants it. And there's no obligation. So take me up on that. That's about $562.50 value. It's 1 hour over Skype, Zoom, phone, whatever you like. And you get a free session with me. And I just want to, from this webinar, I just want to add as much value to your thinking as possible. And I think that's often done better one-on-one, where you can really share and open up where you're at and really nut out some of your concerns, issues, or challenges. So that's what I want to do there. I don't mind whether you sign up to the program or not. That's neither here nor there. This is a no obligation, genuine session where we talk about your stuff. And if you want to know more, go to becomingtheexpertprogram.com and you can certainly see what that's all about if you are curious and you have questions there. Thank you very much for coming today. And there's all my details. So we'll leave that up if you like. So Nikita, do you want to handle these questions?
Yes. So I am going to unmute everyone.
Oh God, I'm going to hear the washing machines.
So let's unmute all. All right. So who wants to go first? Who wants to either interject with what Katrena has shared with us today, or voice some of your current challenges? So what's holding you back from actually going out to, the marketplace and positioning yourself, or saying that you are the expert? What's stopping you? No, we're all out there. We're all out there saying that we're the experts. Hello? Are we awake?
Yeah. They're processing.
Processing. Is that what's happening?
I think that's what's happening.
All right. Now, one of the other things that we didn't get to cover is pricing ourselves correctly. So obviously we're out there, we're saying that we're an expert in our field of excellence. You talked very briefly about how the youngins are coming up from behind us, making sure that they're packaging themselves correctly. You mentioned pricing in there. So how do we go through that process of actually pricing our services correctly?
That's a great question, and thank you for framing it up in that sense. If everyone just wants to mute for a second, that would be great.
Yes,
just mute so we can lose a lot of that noise. So thank you. So pricing, couple of issues around pricing is, one, we all know women undersell themselves. Does everyone agree? There is so many issues around money that I coach around. I do a lot of therapy around with women dealing with self-value issues, self-belief issues, pricing themselves too cheaply, where I can see they're just going to go out of business. And I've got a couple of things that I can share with you. One is, if you are the expert and you do have 10, 20, 30 years experience, people need to pay for that. So a couple of trainers, for example, like if I look across the board at training, I can sell myself at $10,000 a day, $5,000 a day, $2,500 a day, $1,000 a day, or $50 an hour. Now, there is trainers out there at all those prices. So what I find is people don't want to buy the cheapest. If they wanted to buy the cheapest, then they are not your customer. Let them go. They will go to all the free things in the world and they will still do it in a bitsy fashion. Let them. That's fine. That's not my customer. My customer is somebody that wants to know how to position themselves like a Rolls Royce. So you want to be the Rolls Royce, the BMW, the Mercedes in your market, not the VW. So if you want to be the VW, then all you are a commodity buy. So just like milk, well, now milk has lots of different prices, but let's just take milk on the base value. Lowest common denominator is $1 a litre. Now, I don't want to be the milk that's $1 a litre. I want to be the soya organic bloody blah that's $4.50 a litre. Does that make sense? So what I'll do is I'm happy in your free coaching session to actually discuss what you're currently pricing yourself at, and I'll show you what the difference is. And I promise you, if I'm making you lift your prices by 3 or 4 times, you will feel uncomfortable, and I'll say good. Now I do it 2 ways with my clients. The first way is they say, I'll just incrementally increase my prices over the next 3, 6, 12 months. And I go, fine, if that's what makes you happy. But what happens is every time you feel resentful of invoicing for that new amount, that's the time to lift your price. So instead, what I say to people is, instead of lifting your price over 12 months, just call it that amount right now, feel uncomfortable right now, and then tell me when you're congruent with it and your body stops feeling uncomfortable, and then tell me when you get to resentment at that level, because that now we have to increase your prices again. So there's a whole bunch of stuff around money and what you're worth, and I need to do some coaching around that for each individual, because everyone has a whole bunch of shit left over from mummy and daddy and what they thought of themselves. So we want to get rid of all of that. And all you NLP mindset coaches that are listening today, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that have issues around their value around money, and I want to break through that with them, and we do that through an NLP technique. So we can do that, and you can do that with your NLP technique, your NLP expert in your area, but you've got to break it. It's a limiting belief around yourself and your money. That's all it is.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, just interesting, I want to find out who in this session has actually considered writing a book, in the middle of writing a book, or already published a book. Anyone?
Yeah, I have.
Amanda and Lynn Lumley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else in the session that's thinking about it or in the middle?
I've considered.
Who was that?
Lee.
Okay. So
yeah, and I'm in the middle of it too.
And Demetra, did you say you're in the middle of it or you're considering it?
Yeah, and I'm in the middle of it.
Fantastic. So because of course, Katrena, you did cover off quite a bit about the fact that becoming an author and speaking, it's all means of actually positioning yourself as in your field of excellence. So I was just curious, out of this group, how many of you have actually already achieved that or in the middle of achieving it? Now, Lee, just tell us.
Can I just comment on that for a second?
Go for it.
With the book that you're doing, that's all great, but make sure you're very clear that all your book is going to do is cover the cost of printing your book. So the best-selling author in Australia would be probably $5,000 revenue a year. And that $5,000 revenue a year, if you were to get that sort of thing, you just plow back into buying more books. And so eventually my clients start off buying 20 books and then 50 books and then 100 books. And the money they get from those, selling those books for $20, there's a cost of, say, about $10. They just plow that money back in. And so the cycle of your book sales is just to simply buy more books. Now, where the money comes in is not in book sales. Please don't think you're writing a book to earn $1 million. That's not where the model will work like that. You've got to get out there and take your book out into the world. And you do that through speaking. And you do a quick keynote about your top 10 principles. And then that makes people curious and connect with you. And then they come into your program where the book goes live. And so I create then with you that your book becomes a live event. And that's where people really get the benefit. But in your book, be careful not to give away the farm, because if they read your book and that's all they need, then you're losing out on the thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars that you'll get for training within that book. So just bear that in mind, that the book is positioning tool, nothing more. It positions you as the expert. No book, you're not the expert. No stage, you're not the expert. Put the book with the stage, you're the expert. And that's the way it works.
Okay. And Lee, you did say that you're considering writing a book. What's holding you back from that?
I was more focused on what Katrena was just saying. I so totally agree with her. I think what was not necessarily hold me back. What I got busy doing was generating more revenue for the business in a different avenue, I guess. So I just did that recently. We just launched a new part of the business, just taking what we already do and using what we already have and putting it into a marketplace where we can actually generate revenue from it. So
it just went on the back burner. So it's still something in your pipeline.
Well, yeah, yes, I guess. But back to what Katrena was saying again, that the first part was like, she just described the last week of my life where I probably spend 5 or 6 times a day giving out information to people. Sometimes it's for an hour and a half over the phone. We're talking multinational global corporations here who don't get information out of other businesses that do the same sort of thing that I do. So when they do get information, even for 5 minutes, they're kind of excited about it. I need to learn to keep my mouth shut, pretty much.
You're giving away the farm and they don't need to pay for it.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And I do that probably at least 5 times a day. And with, as I said, with a lot of people who could certainly afford to pay for it. And they get a lot of information that I do things in a totally different way to what pretty much the rest of the global market does in my industry. So I just need to keep my mouth shut pretty much.
You do, but your objective is not to sell. Your objective is to increase curiosity, to have a strategy meeting with you, and that's when you kick in with the price. So my meetings now are half an hour where, people from corporate will pick my brain, as they say, and my meetings used to be an hour and a half to 2 hours. I don't do that anymore because they didn't need me after that because I'd given it all away for free. So
yeah, that's where I'm at, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's use your session.
It's frustrating
to really unpack that, and I'll just show you how to increase curiosity and make them want to buy from you after half an hour, and then you walk away. And if they never come back and they never buy from you, they were never going to anyway. They were just trying to steal your ideas. So
the thing is, I get the curiosity from them, and I get the wow from them, and I get the contact straight back from them. I just actually need to learn to keep my mouth shut at that point and not take it any further, so that they, when they do come back, and they come back even after the hour and a half, but and most of them, probably 90% of them become a client.
Great.
But you've already given so much away as well, and then you've set a precedent where you're open to give out information, so they ask for it more regularly. And it's all part of the project that you're doing, but it's not really. It's really part of their corporate strategy and their business, and something they should be paying for, not something you should be giving away freely.
And if you were to do a 4-hour strategy session with the key people in that decision, how much would you charge?
Just $350 an hour times about $350 an hour times 4 hours.
Yeah. So what does that work out at?
About $1,300, I suppose.
Okay, so I'd change that to 2.5. And then when you feel resentful of that, change it to 3,000. And when
Can you hear the resentful in my voice right now? Because I'm so resentful about it.
You're really resentful. Exactly.
It's terrible.
That's
there's
great.
Already that uncomfortableness there.
Yeah, no, that's great. Resentfulness means
to be uncomfortable. So you're resenting the $1,400 instead of being uncomfortable about what you're charging.
Yeah, it should be up around 3.5
hours a day given away at the moment.
Yeah. So resentment is a great emotion to take note of, and that's when you lift your prices. If you didn't have resentment, you'd be quite happy working for $2.50 an hour. That's perfectly fine. Stay with it, but you're not. See, your body's telling you this is not right. So get it up to, if I were you, I will convince you, if I can, I'll convince you to go to 3.5 straight away and just be slightly uncomfortable, and then give me a call in 6 months, 12 months when that is selling like hotcakes, and you're really closing big deals after those strategy times. And we can easily go to 4.5, or we can just add more value. So I'd look at doing a 1-day workshop, 9 to 5 with the team, with the potential customer, and doing $4,500 a day or $5,000 a day that they'll pay for. Divided by how many people are in the room, it's cheap.
Absolutely.
And they learn a lot.
Yeah. We have no problem securing deals or big deals or big clients or any of that sort of stuff. It's just being milked constantly, I think, for information.
Yeah. But
I look forward to our chat. I just sent you an email.
Oh, good. I'll take the pressure off you now, but I really want to talk to you because I've got a lot to say around that whole thing. And I can show you how that you're just not showing, you're not packaging yourself correctly, so they don't know what to buy. So they just talk to you for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once we've got a product for you and you're clear on the product and the offering, you just, at the half an hour meeting time, you just say, this is the easy next step.
Yep. Cool.
And then they
and
buy
excuse
that
my
for
no video
4.5.
for security reasons. I don't have videos on my computers, so sorry about
Fair
that.
enough. You probably either haven't got makeup on or you're still in your pajamas.
I wish either of those two were true. Trust me.
Or you could be naked. You could be naked.
I'm
for all we know.
glad that's not true, but that's I'll leave that with you.
Yeah, I'll leave that with you. And please, let's get in touch, and I'll have that session with you and very quickly give you some big confidence about just packaging it and pricing it correctly, and then doing
Excellent.
Yeah, and not allowing people to just take the advice from you, keep milking you for all you've got.
Yeah, I know.
It's funny. We were just talking this morning about putting something in the bottom of my email that actually come out with the clause with my art director here, just saying, you know, to try and combat it because it's been happening a lot. To say, you know, we're happy to provide advice, but at this point we charge money for it. We just couldn't figure out a way to say it, like, and just put it as a standard on the bottom of my email, no matter what, because it happens that regularly. We're talking McDonald's, we're talking Glencore, we're talking big councils, we're talking some pretty major companies.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get that sorted.
Was there anyone else? We've got 5 minutes left with Katrena. Is there anyone else that wants to sort of put it out there, any specific issues that they're having?
Yeah, I've got one about, so basically I'm just entering the marketplace now with doing this mentoring and coaching to accounting firms. And the people that I'm talking about saying, oh, accountants won't pay for that, accountants won't do this. So I'm getting that resistance. But I agree with what you said, Katrena. I'm not prepared to do it for a really low cost. I know that I'm prepared to wait for the clients to come, to get that premium pricing, because 18 years doing this, I started the practice from scratch, from home, and then I had my children straight after it. And so I'm not prepared to give it all away. But yeah, it's just really hard to position that and try to get those clients coming in the door. I know I need to sit back and not be too rash about it. But so I've been doing my writing for MYB. I'm on an ATO panel. So I'm doing all the right things. I just need to get those people in and be willing to sort of get the money. So I'm even thinking maybe just some smaller masterminds to start with, so people at maybe a little bit more reduced cost, but less of the one-on-one.
When we have our session together, Amanda, with permission, I'd love to just show you that there's a number of strategies you can use. So I'd like to just show you a number of different ways of doing it. Mastermind is after your signature program. So I wouldn't be jumping to Mastermind because that's bitsy and all over the place. What I need for you is to package it all up. So in your book, it has your philosophy, and then you give that away as your business card. They connect with that because they've seen you speak and they understand the value and why they're doing it. And I want your signature program to be probably about $10,000. And I want that to look good on paper. So it needs to, when they look at $10,000 in the year, how many of those do you need to sell to make a $200,000 business out of it?
Yeah, that's right.
How many?
20.
20. Do you think you can find 20 people in your local area that are accountants?
I think I should. Perhaps not in my local area. I'm from Port Stephens, so it's a bit smaller here, but I'm prepared to go anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter in Australia.
But 20 is the number.
I know.
It's not a big number. And so what I do is demystify numbers for you, and we'll say if we charged $5,000 for the package or $10,000 for the package, you only need 20 people instead of 40 people. And so at first you might go, oh, please let me charge $5,000. And I'll go, that's fine. And next week, you've sold 40 and you're like, oh, bloody hell, I should have sold, it could have been half that.
I don't have a problem with the resistance. I'm not trying to, what I have probably got a problem is getting out there and doing more of it. So
you're not packaged correctly. So let me just package all that up on paper for you, and then you'll be more than happy to get out there and you'll close the deals. If you're not closing deals easily and effortlessly, then it's not packaged correctly. Yeah. So there's 20 accountants out there. I've personally met with probably at some point in my time, I actually went and had meetings all over the country And I met with 200 accounting firms and their senior partner. So I know that market really well. I know their mindset, and I know how they're risk adverse, and they're really they don't like change, and they're a little bit stayed in their ways. You have to approach them from where they're at now, not from where you want them to be in the future. So they're not there. So they don't understand. They don't think mindfulness is even important.
They don't realise they need me yet. This is the issue. I know they don't realise. They can see through the things that I've done, but they're not quite yet. And should I be niching just to women?
No, not in that particular market. In that particular market, the accountancy is going to be predominantly male. So what you want to do is, I'd be calling your book "Stop Killing Yourself," something like that, something outrageous, something really masculine. And when you hand that to them, do you think that they would read that? Like, I don't want to kill myself.
Yeah.
Straight away, they're going, oh, holy crap, what's that? And then your speech is all about stop killing yourself. It's 10 things that they're doing that's currently killing them, and how you've got the 10 solutions that stop that. And that's the kind of approach. This is just on the surface. I'm not even with you one-on-one. Just my intuition tells me that's the way to go.
I was thinking about some little ads, what do they feel? It's because they are experts. They're doing stuff themselves, but they're not working on their own, business, and they're not really thinking. If they stood back, they're giving this great advice to everyone else, but they're not taking it themselves. But to do that, they need to step away and really work out what's important to them before they have that heart attack, or before they have a relationship breakdown, all those things. So that's what happens if you're not in that flow.
Yeah, with your niche, I'd be careful to use fluffy words. Men will see it as fluffy words like lifestyle coach or life coach or mindfulness coach or any of that crap. Don't use that. Use it as you're a business mentor, you're a business consultant. You just specialize in the health of the business, because if they're dead, the business doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
So really talk quite harshly like that.
They're not moving with the times as well, because with technology, if they're not on with the technology, they're not going to have a business in the future.
Yeah, so you can talk more than just about the body and the mind. You can talk about what they need to get up to speed in technology as well, and get them to look at what will make their life, start working smart, not hard.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, sorry, ladies, I am going to have to interject there, because we've hit time. So I would highly encourage you all to get in touch with Katrena. Email through you're interested in doing a one-on-one 1 hour session with her, because just listening to you now, Katrena, it's you're amazing at what you do.
Thank you.
And you do have the intuition, obviously, just speaking with Lee and Amanda with where they're at, and how you think you can definitely help them to position and package themselves better. So I hope you've all enjoyed today's session. You will receive the entire list, Katrena. So if you could forward the PowerPoint slides to everyone, just so that they've got them at the end, because they will.
And then they've got my details
anyway. And you'll receive a list of those that weren't in today's session as well. So I invite you to email them and just let them know that you've got this offer if you wanted to extend it to them also. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. It's great to see you all. And for those of you who haven't actually met me, Dimitra, it's been lovely actually putting a face to the name and the voice. Now, please, before we end the session, just jump into that chat bar that I asked you to pop your details in earlier, and on the bottom right-hand corner of that, click the More button and see where it says Save Chat. Just save that, so that when you get off this session, it will actually go into your Zoom folder. Okay, so that's how you'll have everyone's details, and you can reconnect. Katrena has also just put her email in there as well, in addition to the email that was sitting on the slide at the end. So can you just give that website to us again, Katrena?
becomingtheexpertprogram.com.
Perfect. So if you want to check that out, jump online and check that out. Thank you so much for joining us. Our next events, of course, are up on the website. We're sending out invitations, so make sure that you make the most of your networking and getting out as much as you can before the year is over. Editorials due by the 3rd of October. And the next online session, we've got Kirsty O'Callaghan in on the 2nd of November. So if you can't make it to the live events, please interact with us online. It's great to get outside of that, isolation that we often all feel, working from home or working from a busy office or working within the male-dominated industries. So make sure that you make the time to get into these online sessions if you can't do the actual physical networking luncheons and brunches. So thank you for joining us, and make sure you've saved that chat. Everyone save the chat, because as soon as I end the meeting, you don't have access to it again. I'll give you a minute to do that. So click into the chat bubble, click on more, hit save chat.
And where can you see that chat later on, Nikita?
That's it. It's gone. So
if we save it, where does it go?
Okay, so when this closes, there's a Zoom folder automatically on your local desktop or wherever you can access it in your Zoom folder.
Great, thanks.
No worries at all. I hope you've enjoyed today's session, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks for that.
Nikita.
Bye.
Bye.